Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. And today is April 6th. It's a Thursday, 2023. Thank you so much for listening. Okay, we're going to have a nice show for you today. One of my two guests has already called in. I hope the other one does. I've got Maria Armstrong here. Dr. Armstrong, one of my favorite people in all of education. She knows that. Okay. Dr. Armstrong, the wonderful Maria, is the executive director of the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. And with 1/3 of our students, okay, in this country being of Latino descent, okay, it is extremely important that people who are Latino stay in the classroom, become administrators, take care of their needs, show these kids that they are great role models. And that's why it's so important that Maria does the work she does with Allah. So they always do good stuff. I'm also expecting a wonderful superintendent, but he hasn't called in yet, which I'm surprised about. Rene Sanchez, okay, is the superintendent of Champlain Valley School District in Vermont, a rural school district outside of Burlington. Beautiful area, by the way, okay, near Sherbrooke and all that sort of stuff, but it is rural. Okay, so I'm very glad that I hope he's going to be with us today, but if not, we'll talk to Maria about things going on with ALAS, etc. All right, we'll archive the show at ace-ed.org, ace-ed.org. That is the home website of our American Consortium for Equity in Education, and we do believe in that, especially these days, okay? We really and truly do, all right? And so if you go over there, you're going to see that our new issue of the magazine or online journal, Equity and Access, is now available for you, and it is an excellent issue. The cover story being about all the challenges with books in school libraries and classrooms. So please check it out. It is an equity question. It is an access to learning question. We took a survey. We've got the results of it inside the magazine. And I'll tell you, it is really important. Everything we do is free over there at ace-ed.org. We're all about equity. And if you want to work and help us work with that, put your voice into the mix, please go over to ace-ed.org. You'll see the podcast link. You'll see the magazine. Just click through and enjoy. Again, it's all free. We want you to be a part of all this. Anyway, I'm Larry Jacobs, and my guest is the one and only Maria Armstrong. And hi, Maria. Good morning to you. Where are you today?
Hey, Larry. Good morning. I am in D.C. I'm finally home for a little bit.
Good enough. You've been on the road. Wow, that's great. It's a beautiful day, I hope, down there. Cherry blossom time.
Well, you know, the cherry blossoms, they've pretty much come and gone now, but last week they were in full bloom, which was awesome. But it's been, you know, I think we hit like 88 yesterday, something like that.
Good.
But
bring it here in Maine.
Yeah.
Bring it to Maine.
I'm not going to complain about it.
Yeah, don't complain. No complaint. So you'd be an official New Englander if you did that. And speaking of New Englanders, Rene has joined us. Rene, I'm Larry. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sanchez or Mr. Sanchez. Are you Doctor or Mr.? Rene, I'm going to call you Rene, but are you Doctor or Mr.?
I'm a Mr. for right now. I'm still working on that elusive PhD, but putting things down in writing.
There's a way to get that. Apply to the University of Larry. I own it. I run it. It's 140 character doctoral thesis. You'll have it by this afternoon. No problem whatsoever. Okay? Rene, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for being here. Okay, I really appreciate you being here. I know you're busy. I had a note somewhere that said you need to be off by 11 o'clock. It's 10:35 now. Is that still the case?
No, I'm good. I'm actually good.
Okay, good.
I just need to be. I have another thing at about 12, so I'm good.
We're good. I'm in Maine, so we're on the same time zone here, okay, up in New England with you, all right? And I hope we just have a little bit of snow left on the ground, not much, okay? Well, how about in Vermont? What's doing in Champlain Valley, Sherbrooke?
I can't see any snow anywhere, which is fantastic. It's like 50-something degrees today.
Wow.
So
it's
amazing. Wonderful. I
think all the snow in New England is still left on my lawn. That's the only place I see it too, but it's still all there, for goodness sakes. And it'll melt over the next few days. I want to start off with Maria. Maria, tell everybody about ALAS, which is just a terrific organization. And again, I'm going to say it again. We have to be representative of the kids we teach. okay? And for obvious reasons, it's important to have Latino administrators and superintendents, and I might add teachers, okay, educators in American schools. So with that intro, Maria, just talk about your work with ALAS.
Yeah, so one of the things that's one of the areas that we're always trying to increase our representation, but more importantly, ALAS is we like to say we are the premier organization for those who may not come from the same background or experiences, but to come and be a part of us at our table to be our guest, so that you can learn about the varied cultures within the Latino community, because we have a very diverse group of individuals that come from all over. And so, but we're lumped into one big bucket, right? And so we want to make sure that
you're right. You're right.
Those that are in front of our students, that they have an understanding of those cultural nuances, so that we can better serve, at the end of the day, better serve our kids. And so it's not just, the misnomer is you have to be Latino to be a part of the organization. And the reality is we want everybody there so that we're sharing our experiences. And so ALAS is getting ready to celebrate its 20th summit anniversary in October. So we're going back to San Antonio, Texas, where we'll be hosting our annual summit. So we want to invite everybody, especially those who maybe have not even heard, or they're hearing for the first time of what ALAS is, that it even exists. They could come out and take a look and see if this is something that they would want to be a part of, to be able to learn, and just we got to be in this boat together. So So as you said earlier, the population of our Latino students it has been growing.
Tremendous.
And many of we've been here a long time, and so it stands to reason why we do what we do. But more importantly, I'm super excited, Larry, to have Rene Sanchez, Superintendent out of Vermont, because he's got some excellent news that he's going to be able to share outside of his own experiences that I'm sure you're going to want to poke him prod about.
I am going to. Thank you, Maria. That was good. And actually what you said was very, very important. And sometimes we do forget that Latino is that big generic word. And I don't know the actual number, but we're talking about probably 40 nationalities, okay? Each with a different culture, a unique culture, I might add, okay? And we also think everybody speaks Spanish, and of course we're also talking about Brazil and Portugal, okay, and those countries, all right? They speak Portuguese, quite obviously, or they come from that area, etc. And one of the things I just have to say, which you are dead on right, is that I'll just use the generic again. Kids from those cultures, okay, which is absurd at this point in time, are to some degree are still struggling, okay? And we have to have that. That has to stop, okay? Those kids are no different. And you're going to San Antonio for your conference, along the border, okay? And I'm not talking about immigration. I'm talking about the school districts, okay? They can be pretty rural along the border. Okay, and there's a lot of Latino kids there, and they are struggling, and they are under-resourced, and although they're rural, they are under-resourced, okay? So we have to be very, very aware of this, and for urban districts, you have to be sure that these kids are well taken care of as well, and that we understand the culture and engage them and make them feel at home. So you are dead on right, Marie, and one day I'm going to – do you know the number? What's the or maybe Rene, what's the count of – different countries that we call Latino? Is it around 40? Does anybody know, Rene?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it would be everything south of the United States, and then Portugal and Spain. So that's a lot of countries.
It's a lot. I'm going to do a count. It's all Central America and South America. Okay, and then again, obviously the two European cultures. It's amazing. And
we also have to look into the islands as well, because that's going to include, Puerto Rico's our territory, and we include Cuba, and so there's quite a few.
And by the way, all those island nations, please forgive me. I wasn't thinking of you on the map, right? That's why I apologize for that. Of course, Puerto Rico, of course, Cuba, etc. When you think about it, the two European countries aren't that big, but look at the culture they have spread. That's a really interesting thing. They aren't that big. All right? And it's amazing. They're talking about 400 years ago, and look, or 500 years ago, and look how the culture has stayed and spread. It's very interesting. Okay, really is something. That's the old history teacher in me talking. Rene, welcome to our podcast. I'm really glad you're here today. Thanks for being here and taking some time out.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're more than welcome. So are you from, let me ask a couple of questions. A, are you from Vermont? And B, brag a little bit about your Champlain Valley district.
So earlier you were talking about rural districts in Texas and urban districts in Texas. So yeah. I'm originally from what used to be a small town along the Texas border called Edinburgh. And so when I was growing up, it was pretty small. But now that area of Texas has it's blown up quite a bit, and so there is a huge population down there. And so one of the things that I would invite listeners to check out is if you look at the performance of the districts along the Rio Grande Valley, the Rio Grande River down in the Rio Grande Valley, they have a tendency to overperform what people might think that Latinos are able to accomplish. And so I don't know if the research has been done on that, but it is welcome to see that these rural districts are doing rather well. And as
great.
Far as urban goes, you are absolutely correct. You're absolutely on point that sometimes our Latino students do get forgotten within the realms of urban districts. And so it's important to me. So I've worked in Austin and in Houston in those districts. And so fortunately, those two districts, they do put a heavy emphasis on making sure that our Latino students are being served. And so that's where I'm from. And so almost 20 years ago, I married a upstanding young lady from Vermont. And so when it came to looking for superintendencies, we were able to find this amazing district here in Vermont about a year and a half ago. Yes, about a year and a half ago. And we moved here, and we love it. So my district is one of the largest, if not the largest in Vermont. We have the largest high school, and which is called Champlain Valley Union High School. And we are known for our proficiency-based learning. We are known for our personalized learning. We also have our elementary and middle schools are combined, so we have our K-8s, and they're able to serve our students within houses or cohorts of students, and the parents really appreciate that their students are with the same teachers, whether they're looping or if they are able to have the same teacher over and over, and so that way they are able to build the relationships that are necessary for our students to be successful. The other thing I want to brag about is, and some of this is emblematic of Vermont, but some of this is also inherent to our school district, is that even before I arrived, there was a focus on equity and being able to wrestle with that topic, because anything having to do with learning, anything having to do with diversity, equity, inclusion, all of those things, they're truly a journey. So there are going to be fits and starts. Nobody's going to be perfect. It's not a straight line. And so, we've had our share of issues, but in essence, what we're trying to accomplish is delivering the best possible education for our students, providing the education that they deserve, as well as making sure that we have the outcomes in mind from when they join us as pre-kindergarten students all the way till they graduate from us when they finish in 12th grade.
That's good stuff. And by the way, I know your area quite well. We go over there quite often. I love it over there at Burlington. It's the south of Burlington, everybody. Okay, and it's just a great part of the world. I mean, I know it well. I live in Maine, and we get over there all the time to see friends, etc. And next time I'm over there, I'll stop in and say hello to you, Mr. Sanchez.
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely.
I'll be there, and I'll buy you a creamy. I'll buy you a creamy or a Ben and Jerry's. We'll go there. Okay. He knows what I'm talking about. Okay. Great ice cream.
We'll do advertising for Creamies another time. But
they're pretty good. I know this stuff, Maria. Okay. It's amazing. And by the way, every district in the country has issues. Don't you know darn well you're not alone on that. And those issues of equity come up all the time. And it brings up an interesting the diversity in your district. And I believe Vermont. I'm pretty sure of this. And again, I live in Maine, but I think we're number 2. Okay, I think Vermont is the least diverse, if I may, state in the country. Rene, what's the diversity in your school district, if I may?
So I think Maine and Vermont are duking it out for the number 1 spot.
Yeah,
we're duking it out for the
diverse.
Number 2 spot.
Least diverse. Yeah.
And so within my district, we are. It is very homogeneous white. Yeah. But we do have because it is Vermont. We do have a lot of students who have moved here because of their refugee status. We do have other students who have moved here because of the military bases that we have in the area. And so we are growing in our diversity.
So when you talk about, and you are, I agree, and we are, by the way, just so you know this here in Maine, you'll appreciate this, Maria, there is a huge, of all things, people from Somalia. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a huge diverse group up here, ethnic group. All right, and they moved mostly to Lewiston and then into Portland. Okay, it's one of the more interesting migrations, if I may, that I find going on. So you never know how these things are going to shake out everywhere. Okay, and by the way, they do shake out everywhere, literally in all 50 states. And all 50 states are facing this issue. And the issue they face, which I find very interesting, is that a lot of the kids here in Maine, over in Vermont, wherever they might be, they're not going to stay where they were. People don't necessarily stay where they grew up. They sometimes move on. Okay, your kids in Vermont want to go to New York City or wherever the case may be, Chicago, Dallas, whatever it might be. And when they go there, they are going to see this non-homogeneous grouping of people. Okay, that's what a big city is made of. And that's very hard for a school district to help teach kids that the world does not necessarily look like us. Okay, you are going to go to big universities, you're going to go to big places, etc. And it's a real challenge for school districts to make sure that kids understand this is a big world out there. You're going to travel, etc., etc. And when I say that, okay, and you look at that kind of a challenge, Rene, what comes to mind? How does a school district handle that, if in fact they even do?
So there's a couple things. So there's 2 things that we've already accomplished in this first year and a half. So number 1, we undertook an equity audit.
Wow!
Kind of at the second at the end of over the course of at the second semester last year, we brought in an organization where they conducted surveys, they held focus groups. They did kind of some interim check-ins with the data. And then they produced a report on the items that we needed to work on as a school district. And so really it's the 4 things is really having an eye towards becoming more of a data analysis, a data analytical district, making sure that we have common data, and then making sure that we keep an eye on on creating a more uniform curriculum, kind of expectations there. Making sure that we have opportunities to diversify our workforce and all the workforce in the sense of hiring, retaining, training, and recruiting. And so those are important things. Another aspect is making sure that we get out in the community and when we create things, whether it's a strategic plan, which I'll get to in a second, or a facilities plan, or anything else in general, making sure that we're involving not just internal stakeholders, but also involving our families and involving the taxpayers who are part of the district.
Yep,
and
footing the bill. That's every taxpayer, including ones who don't have kids in school. That's so important. Please continue.
Exactly. And then the number one thing that they ask for us to do is, before you do any of these other things, you really need to focus on creating a shared understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. Because until you do that, everybody's still going to be operating from their own inherent what they believe those topics should be. So with that in mind, so I have a district DEI director, but then we also place DEI coaches on each of the campuses whose job it is to work with the teachers and work with families and work with the administrators, so that as we're developing this shared definition and kind of this idea of how we are addressing it within our classes, they have somebody on staff who's there in the building who's able to assist them on a regular, if not daily basis. And so they've been meeting with families, they've been meeting with PTOs, they've been meeting with administrators and teachers to develop this shared understanding, where we're still kind of in the final draft stage. But now we're going to have something to go with our district's equity policy, and it's going to be an appendix that's part of the other item that we finished, which is our strategic plan, where the number one thing that we are focused on as a district is academic growth and belonging. And so for us, we want to make sure that we are, like I mentioned earlier, focused on our students from pre-K to 12. So that means that as we're developing the metrics and the actions for our students, that we're looking at it from the point of view, okay, so in kinder, they should be able to do this. First grade, they should be able to do this, so that by the time they graduate, we know exactly where they're supposed to be. We have a portrait of a graduate. We have these expected graduation skills that are that we have. But what I would like to be able to have our strategic plan do is have us emphasize, well, these skills are wonderful because they were developed as part of a community, but we want to make sure what is expected of the kindergarten students and the kindergarten teachers, what are expected of the first grade teachers and the first grade teachers. So that way we have the ability to say these students have met these expectations for this grade level, so that if they're meeting it, great, we can offer some enrichment. If they're not, we need to make sure that we're attempting to address it in tier one education. If not, we're going to need to find some sort of intervention to be able to help them.
Well said. Well said. I got to tell you all of that. Go ahead, continue, please.
But to get back to your question, is the idea that we have to begin to include within our curriculum, within our field trip opportunities, within the other expectations, the students being able to see themselves in the curriculum, to see themselves from the point of view, whether it's within Vermont or it's in, like you were mentioning, some other part of the world.
Exactly.
And I am the reverse example. So I grew up in deep South Texas, where it was 98% Latino, largely Mexican American, and heavily Catholic. So then I go to Notre Dame for undergrad, and it's 6% Latino and heavily Catholic. And then, then a lot of it. But now here I am in Vermont, where it's less than 2% Latino, and I'm having to be able to code switch and be able to lead people who are learning the way that I see the world.
You are the shining example of everything we're talking about here. You are. You've gone from one border to the other, from south to north. Okay, and you've been a leader and a successful man. And look at that role model that you portray to the students of the district. Look at that. It's amazing. I congratulate you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I really do congratulate you. That's great, Rene. And I got to tell you, you can't go any further north in the country. You got to start moving east or west, by the way. You're only an hour from the border. Okay, that's simple. All right. And, so, I just want to ask you, when you have your DEI coordinators, and, of course, you have one up in administration, okay, and your superintendent, I know you've been talking to these folks, et cetera, okay, when all said and done, what is the goal of the DEI? I mean, the DEI words are easy to say, But in the end, what do you want to happen? How do you want it to manifest itself?
So there are so many things, whether it's systems or processes within those systems, where it is that we have to unpack, because there are things that people have to unlearn, and so and at the same time that they're learning new things. And so and that's why finding that shared definition, that shared course of what diversity, equity, inclusion is critical. So diversity, equity, inclusion is going to appear in our academics. It's going to appear in our social emotional learning. It's going to appear in our discipline. It's going to appear in our career and technical education. It's going to appear in almost every facet of what we offer as a school district. And so one of the things that I also have to make sure that people remember is that we also need to make sure that our students who are neurodiverse are included in the list of students for whom we are attempting to offer them services within diversity, equity, and inclusion, because frequently around the country they are often forgotten in these planning processes. And so for me, it's critical that we really develop a strong baseline of where we are right now, so that way we know what training we need to provide. We know what systems we need to change or improve upon or eliminate. And as we roll out this strategic plan, we know what actions are going to serve our priorities. You know, we have to be able to measure those actions, and then we also have to know who is responsible for those actions, because we want to make sure that if we're saying that we're going to do something, then somebody has to be in charge of it so that it gets done. Because otherwise it may not get done, and that's not fair to the kids.
It is not. And by the way, since you mentioned neurodiversity, you may know these people. Are you familiar with Landmark College in Vermont?
Yes, I am familiar with them. Yes. Yeah,
they're good friends of mine, and they are a college for literally a higher education institution for students who are neurodiverse. And I'd be happy to, and they work with high schools all the time, and I'd be happy to introduce you if you ever want to link over there. Okay, that'd be my pleasure.
Yes.
They're good friends. Okay.
Yes.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes, that'd be great. Especially since Vermont does support students both while they're in high school and then shortly after high school with paying for some of their courses. So if we have neurodiverse students who are interested in kind of getting some college credits while they're in high school, they're a perfect place to get it done. But then even better if they're able to take advantage of it once they graduate.
I will introduce you to my friends over there, and we'll get you guys together. And however that works out, it's not going to hurt anything. That'll be my pleasure to do that. They're near Brattleboro in little Putney, Vermont. Okay, which is a cute. What town isn't cute in Vermont? Let's be realistic. What town isn't cute in Vermont? Okay, right?
That's true.
Right. Yeah, you know. I want to ask you something. You kind of brought this up, and this is a real challenge. And again, you were the way Vermont is a rural state, but you are a suburban district, quote, to their biggest city, which is Burlington. Okay, and I am curious. Talk to me. And by the way, you're near a great school, which is UVM, okay, University of Vermont. And I'm curious. Talk to me about teacher recruitment and teacher retention up there. And I will. And by the way, feel free to do a sales pitch. Okay, we're talking to a lot of teachers here on the podcast, and I will say to everybody, it is a great place, Vermont. But you go ahead, and a beautiful place. But just talk about teacher retention, teacher recruitment, whichever one matters more, or both, whatever. Rene.
So thank you. So
You're welcome.
We are very fortunate to, like you mentioned, we're near Burlington. We're near kind of the urban area of Vermont. So we are fortunate to have a lot of families, a lot of teachers live in our area, because if they went to UVM or they went to St. Michael's or they went to Champlain College, they live they wanted to stay in the area. So we have been very blessed with being able to have a large teaching staff that has stayed with us. And when we have an opening, we have quite a few applicants. However, since the pandemic, the number of applicants has gone down significantly. And so what I would say is we are still able to hire our teachers on a regular basis, which we're very fortunate. But just like everywhere, when we are looking for, a highly specific teacher, whether it's a language teacher or an elective teacher or a
Sure.
High-level math or science, those are a little bit harder to come by. And so all of us around the state are looking for those, especially if we have someone leave in the middle of the year. So, but what I would say, one of the things that we have started this year is my director of human resources and my diversity director. We have been very focused on attending, whether they're webinars or even going to conferences where we can gather from other organizations how we can diversify, how we can strengthen the current workforce that we have in order to be able to meet the needs of our students. So our students can see themselves in the educators that we have on staff. So what I would say, one of the things that we did going into this year was as kind of a wellness benefit that we're focusing on with our teachers. There's two things really. So one is we, as an extra benefit to working with us, we are giving back a $250, I guess, stipend for anyone who can show that they're going to be using it for wellness. So if you belong to a gym, or if you buy a pass to, Cochran's or Killington or any one of the ski areas, or if you buy a pass to the state parks, you turn in that receipt and we provide you up to $250 reimbursement for that. Because we want to make sure that people are working on their wellness outside of the building as well. The other piece is we currently we're working on doing focus groups and offering office hours to hear directly from our teachers how we can improve, their time within our building.
Their experience.
Like everywhere, we're struggling with teachers and administrators being overloaded with work ever since the pandemic. And there's a rise on student behaviors as well. And so for me and for those who are conducting the interviews, we're trying to find out, is there something that we as a district can do together with teachers and with families to get to that root cause, so that way we can improve the quality of work and the quality of education within our buildings.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. I love that stipend for those things that are so darn important. And you just mentioned something that's always on our mind here, okay? And every superintendent, every school district going through, the SEL with the kids post-pandemic, et cetera. Okay, how are the kids doing right now? Where are you on that scale?
So we're still just trying to serve our kids. I mean, I think that's the we get reports from our administrators and from our families and from our teachers that the amount of behavior is on the rise. And so, it's on
exactly
the news.
Everywhere.
It's people are writing articles about it. So it's everywhere. And so I think what I would like for us to be able to do, certainly within the district and within Vermont, is to really kind of reflect on what was it truly like before the pandemic, and what has changed. Whether have the students changed, have our expectations changed, what exactly has happened? Because the way that I've been trying to understand is if both the teachers because teachers experienced trauma during the pandemic too, and the families did as well.
Sure did.
So if we're both in a different place than where we were before the pandemic, then maybe we really need to assess how we do school now post-pandemic.
Yeah.
One of the things that we, and I'm sure everybody's struggling with this, is that we also have had a really difficult time finding substitute teachers. And so part of what we hope to do is provide additional training, additional professional learning for teachers during the workday so that we can have these conversations, so we can do this planning. But we haven't been able to, I guess we haven't had the number of substitutes that we used to have in the past. And as a result, we don't necessarily have that time to work on it during the school day. And it's also more difficult. It's also more difficult when, say, somebody has to take their own child to the doctor, or they have a vacation planned and they leave. Now others are having to cover for them while they're out, rather than there being kind of a guaranteed substitute. So that really wears on teachers and others as well.
Head over to UVM and get those seniors to come over and substitute. They'll love it, and they get paid for the day. Okay, and they'd be great. I mean, it's just you're facing the same challenges, and what you just said a minute ago, things are different. Things have changed. I always say this, I'm not the only one. We're stuck in a system that was built 150 years ago. Okay, and we're in a technology age now. We've had a pandemic. Okay, things are different, and and the challenge of education is that everybody in the community went through K-12 education. They think the best way to do it is the way it was because they all went through it. Okay, but it isn't. We need to look at changes. Okay, and see where the good old days really as good as we think. Okay, we just got to think on that. Maria, this is one smart superintendent you brought over here. You still there, Maria?
Yeah, I tell you,
He's
I couldn't
smart
wait to
guy.
get him on. Yeah, he is. He's the model that you speak of, and we're super excited to have him doing the work that he's doing out there. But I also want him to share. A leader is a leader is a leader, and that's what Rene is. I want him to share what he is also doing to be able to spread not only what he's sharing with you today, but to create a northeastern affiliate. And Rene, can you share a little bit about that?
Please do.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I am, I guess I would have to say that I am, I'm a product of ALAS. And so, but I originally started as part of the Texas Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. And so it was really there when I became involved through their mentoring program is where I really got my leadership feet under me, if you will. Because it was there that I was able to meet leaders who were already at the superintendent or cabinet level in their careers and listen to what they had to endure, what they were working on, and how they were the face of their district and really, in some cases, the face of Texas across the country. And so for me, even being a part of that was really important. It was also among the first places that I actually heard somebody say, you have the skill set to become and to be a successful superintendent. And so it was at that point, I hadn't even really given it any thought. I was a successful principal. I loved my school. I loved my kids and my teachers. And it was at that point I was like, I wonder if I need to start thinking about the next steps. So when in 2019, I mentioned earlier that I went to Notre Dame. I saw that there was going to be some cabinet level positions opening up in the South Bend Community School Corporation. Mm-hmm. One of my former superintendents knew the current superintendent, so he talked to him. So I applied, and I was fortunate to win the assistant superintendent for operations. So I oversaw human resources and transportation, and oversaw the COVID response. We didn't know about that at the time, but I ended up doing that too. So there wasn't one in Indiana, so I became a member of the Illinois ALAS, and they took care of me as well. And so some of my best friends in the business now are from Illinois ALAS. And so then through some encouragement from my superintendent and former superintendents, they said, look, I also went through the
by the way, we got about 2 minutes left. I just want you to know we got about 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, okay. Again, through ALAS, I went through their Superintendent Leadership Academy over the year during COVID, and it was there with our mentors that they helped me apply and get ready for this position. So now what I want to do is be able to give that back. And following the mission of ALAS, be very inclusive in recognizing that we have students all across Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire,
you sure do.
That have superintendents and principals and teacher leaders who need to learn more about how to support those students as they come through. And if you learn more about how to support Latino students, you're going to learn more how to support every student that you have in the building. So, so with the support of a couple of other superintendents and, of course, Maria at ALAS, we are going to have our first kind of information session for this event, for this organization at the end of May this coming year. And so we're hoping to be able to find some superintendents and cabinet levels and even principals who are interested in joining us so that way we can better serve our kids.
I'm happy to help you get the word out on that. If I can be of help to you, tap in. Don't hesitate for a second. We have to leave in just a minute, and I'm serious about that, Rene. Please don't be shy about that. I'm happy. We are happy here at our group. We publish a magazine. We do the podcast, etc. We're happy to help you get that together. I think it's important. Okay, so don't be shy. But I have one question for you, which I always ask. Okay, about Vermont. We'll see how Vermont you are. Are you ready, Maria? Are you ready? Okay, listen, see, we'll see if he's smart. Okay, the University of Vermont, okay, is for some reason called UVM. Why isn't it just UV?
Because it's the French translation, I think.
Go ahead, keep going. You got it.
Because Vert is,
you got it.
is green, and M is mountain.
Yes.
And because it's French like Spanish, it's changed.
You got it.
It's the University of the Green Mountains.
Bingo. I'm so glad he was able to answer that.
He nailed it. He gets just mention my name anywhere. There's a great creamy place where right in Sherbrooke. I can't. What's the big route? Is it Route 6? I can't remember. Okay, but the big route that runs right through Sherbrooke. There's a great creamy place down there. Just mention my name. You can have a free creamy.
Oh, thank you. There's when you come up, there's an amazing place in Jericho that is my favorite. That I will take you to get a creamy.
It's great. I'm telling you, creamies are the best. Vermont creamies, everybody. All right, the best ice cream in the universe. Okay, Maria, thank you for bringing Rene here. This was wonderful. Thank you, my dear.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, always welcome here. Rene, anything I can do for you, tap in. You know how to get me, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Both of you have a great day, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye. Maria Armstrong, one of the best people in education, and Rene Sanchez, great to know him, the superintendent of Champlain Valley, Vermont. We're going to archive the show at ace-ed.org. That's where all kinds of cool stuff is, and it's all free for educators. Thanks for listening. I'm Larry Jacobs.